Hello everyone, I'm Sabir Ahmed. The title of our study is Exploring Unique App Signature of the Depressed and Non-Depressed Through Their Fingerprints on Apps. I'm presenting this work and my co-author and supervisor is Professor Dr. Nobha Ahmed. This research was conducted on the Design Inclusion and Access Lab of North University, Bangladesh. The main motivation of our research is that in previous studies, it's found that without users' awareness, apps can collect data which are very sensitive, like SMS, short message service, location, phone number, even the collection of installed apps. Researchers also found that it's possible to re-identify each of the user through their data of music preferences, app uses, mobility, and this increases the risk of privacy leakage. What makes our research more important is that attacks can be designed through the use of leaked data. And due to the attacks like cyber attacks, victims can suffer from different psychological problems like frustration. Thus, in case of the people who are already suffering from different psychological problems, this situation can be worsened. However, as far as we have seen, there is no study which have explored the unique app signature of the depressed students by which they can be identified. In fact, there's to our best of knowledge, there is no study which have explored the identifiability of a group of people suffering from psychological problem. And also the difference between the depressed and non-depressed is not explored in terms of re-identifiability through app uses data. Therefore, the main research question of our study is can the depressed and be uniquely identified, re-identified only from this set of used apps without having any data like demographic characteristics, phone number, or email. And also we are exploring, is there any statistical significant difference between these two groups of students, that is depressed and non-depressed, in terms of re-identifiability? To collect the actual app use data, we developed an Android app, and we also used the self-reported psychological data to measure the depression, as we will discuss just a few slides later. And we focused on Android app because more than 95% of Bangladeshi uses Android phone. And to collect the data of foreground and background events, we used a Java class, whose name is user states manager, and to save the data, we used Google Firebase. We took several steps so that the participants are aware about their collected data. At first, we gave them about we actually discussed our research with them, and we answered different questions like how we will ensure their security, whatever data we will collect. And also we provided them the consent form where we specifically mentioned about the collected data. And also they had to give the permission manually, which can increase their awareness, that is what they are giving us. And also this research was approved by Center for Research and Development of University. Here is a screenshot of our developed app, which was used to collect the data. As we have mentioned that we detected the depression, and to measure it, we used the patient health questionnaire 9 scale. And there are 9 items in this scale, and the score of each item varies from 0 to 3, and each item actually represents a depressive symptom. The score of this scale varies from 0 to 27, and if a participant has a score 10, she or he was categorized as the depressed group following the previous studies, and others were categorized as the non-depressed. And a previous study has shown that the sensitivity and specificity of this scale is 88% for detecting major depression. In our study, we calculate the uniqueness of a user, and to calculate the uniqueness, we use the formula of Hamming distance, and we followed previous studies which calculate the uniqueness or re-identifiability in case of other groups, so people like male, female, or general people. We used this formula to calculate the uniqueness, and S1 presents a user or student one's set of used apps, and the student presents the um, second students used set of apps, and we calculate the union and then intersection, and we subtracted those. So, and for each participant, we calculate this value from all other participant. Then we calculate the minimum Hamming distance of a user, for example, student one to all other participant. And then if that value is 0, then this means that participant or student is anonymous. And if that value is larger than 0, then this means there is at least one app which made her or him unique. We did a statistical analysis to find out whether there is any statistically significant difference between the depressed and non-depressed. We did either parametric or a parametric test or non-parametric test, depending on the distribution of the data. When the data were normally distributed, we did non-parametric test, and when the data were normally distributed, we did t-test. And when the data had equal variance, that is, both of the groups had equal variance, we did standard t-test. Otherwise, we did the Wills t-test. In a research, there can be several confounders. So we considered the demographic characteristics like age or socioeconomic status like monthly income, which can be a confounder. We found that there is no statistically significant difference between the depressed and non-depressed in terms of age, and also there is no statistically significant difference between these two groups of people in terms of monthly income. And we also find that the ratio of female and male is almost same in both of the groups. For example, there was 13.7% female in depressed group and 12.2% female in the non-depressed group. This is almost similar. Same case we find in case of male participants of both of these groups. As we already mentioned that in a PSQ-9 scale, there are 9 symptoms. There are 9 items, and which are considered as symptoms. And we find that, as expected, actually, that the depressed had more symptoms, and the frequency was higher. For example, in case of depressed group, 82.6% responses were at least several days. That is, at least several days these symptoms were observed or were bothered by the depressed students. On the other hand, in case of non-depressed group, most of the responses were not at all. That is, these symptoms were not observed at all among the non-depressed students. So at first, we present the uniqueness of the students, there's the depressed students and non-depressed students in terms of the all categories. That is, we did not consider the category of the app here. We find that in terms of 7 days data, at least 37 apps will be required on a first, at least 37 apps will be required to make the depressed and also non-depressed as anonymous. So this actually is a higher number of apps, which may not be possible to be anonymous. Later, we explored the uniqueness of the each of the students, that is here ID presents a student. So we find that both in case of depressed group and also in case of non-depressed group, on weekdays, they are more unique than the weekends. So this finding is found both of the groups, that is depressed and non-depressed. Later, we take the uniqueness in each of the hour of a day. And here we also find that on weekdays, they are more unique than the weekends. And this is found both in case of depressed and non-depressed group. It was interesting to see that from 10 p.m. on weekdays, non-depressed students begins to move downwards and who's approximately linear on the weekdays. On the other hand, in case of depressed students, from 7 a.m., depressed students' mean uniqueness increment is almost linear. Later, we take the uniqueness through app categories. Students, 100 students used 1,129 apps in 7 days. And we categorized those apps into 26 categories following several steps. For example, we take the features of the apps, we take the developers category, and also we followed the previous studies, and there were some volunteers from computer science and engineering department who volunteered in categorizing the apps. So here we present the uniqueness regardless of the app category, and also uniqueness in terms of tool category. We find that using only 7 hours data of a week, it's possible to re-identify 88% of the non-depressed students and 91% of the depressed students. And we find that regardless app category, it's possible to re-identify 100% of the depressed and non-depressed students using just 12-hour intervals data. On the other hand, there's actually same findings we find in case of tools category. Using 12-hour intervals data, each of the depressed and non-depressed can be re-identified. This actually shows the vulnerability if the adversaries have just one single app categories data. We also explored all other app categories, is 26 app categories, and here we present the findings for which we found at least 50% participant depressed students can be re-identified. And we find that more than 75% depressed can be uniquely re-identified through the data of communication, photo and video, and productivity category. In case of games category also, we find that 50% students are unique, which means they are actually, it's possible to re-identify 50% students, depressed students. So here we see that just using 1 hour intervals data, it's possible to identify more than 50% depressed and non-depressed students. Same we find in case of photo and video using 3 hour intervals data. And in case of productivity, it was 6 hour intervals data. We also find in case of games category that it's possible to re-identify more than 50% depressed students. Well, so explored, as we mentioned earlier, with that we explored whether there is any difference in uniqueness between the depressed and non-depressed students, and we found that there are actually 7 app categories where the depressed are significantly more unique than the non-depressed students. As we see that in case of finance, food and drink, health and fitness, lawn satellite app category, lifestyle, social media, sports category, the depressed can be more uniquely re-identified than the non-depressed group. And the p-value presents that the difference is statistically significant. We used 0.05 as the threshold, and also we adjusted the p-value using a false discovery rate, as multiple competition can produce the false positive result. In case of social media category, and also in case of health and fitness category, we find that in terms of each interval data, there is 1 hour intervals data, 2 hour intervals data, depressed are more unique than the non-depressed. Same findings is found in case of health and fitness category also. Later, we explored whether there is any diurnal uses pattern between the depressed and non-depressed in terms of social media uses data. And for that, to explore that, we divided a day into 4 equal time ranges. There's night, morning, and afternoon, and evening. We used 6 hour interval to do this, and we followed previous studies to do this one. We find that in case of afternoon and evening time period, depressed are more unique than the non-depressed, and the p-value presents that these are actually statistically significant. So in our study, we have presented the uniqueness of the depressed students, and this actually extends the previous studies which were conducted only on general people and groups like male and female. And we also presented that using data of only a single app category, that is tools category, it's possible to uniquely identify all of the depressed students. As you have mentioned, that this actually highlights the possible threat to privacy, because if the adversary has just a single app category, it will be possible to identify each of the depressed students. In a previous study, researchers remarked that the difference between the weekdays and weekends can be variation in profession. However, in our study, we found that depressed who have similar characteristics, that is, all of them are student, and they have similar age, income, but still they are more unique on weekdays than the weekends. Therefore, our findings suggest that during designing the privacy protecting system, depressed students' uniqueness on weekdays should get more weight in differential privacy. We also have seen that depressed students are significantly more unique in the categories like social media, health and fitness, food and drink. So we actually one of the plausible reason behind having more uniqueness in social media category can be due to having less energy to do real world interaction, and this actually can encourage them to use different types of apps to communicate with their peers, friends, family, and other members. And so these findings going beyond our study's main focus on re-identification demonstrate the support-seeking nature of the depressed, which can be helpful for better support system for this vulnerable group of people. In fact, we found that a student used an AI-based tool which is used to replicate, which is actually is used to make a AI friend with whom they can communicate. So this actually presents their support seeking nature. And as we have found that health in the health and fitness and social media categories, depressed are more unique. So during developing the privacy protecting system, the more noises can be added to data of these categories. And also we have seen that in the social media category, in the afternoon and evening time, the depressed are more unique, significantly more unique. So more noise, there is weight, a high weight to the noise can be added during this time periods, that is afternoon and evening, to preserve depressed students' privacy. One of the limitations in our study is due to having a smaller size of participants, that is, there was 100 students, and we used their 7 days APIS data, and future research can take more participants and also more days of data. Another limitation of our study is we removed the data word from the 9th attempt of PSQ-9 scale, and we actually gone through a process to do this. We contacted with the teachers, coordinators, doctors, because we were worried about asking the dead word, that is asking a question having dead word to the depressed students, and all of them showed their concern, which actually motivated us to remove that word. But having a clinical validation will increase the reliability of our findings. But at the same time, we have checked whether the depressed students are still depressed in the PSQ-8 scale also, which do not have this item. And we found that all of the depressed students in PSQ-9 scale are also depressed in the PSQ-8 scale, which may show the efficacy of our findings. For reference, please check our paper. So thank you all for listening. I'll be happy to answer any question, please.